So today we're pulling our first all-nighter for this project. It's a Friday. It's my Friday of reading week, and I promised myself that if I finish this proposal this week, I would get myself tickets, like a plane ticket for April after I graduate to go hiking in Switzerland. I said in the last video I've never been to Switzerland. I really, really, really want to go to Switzerland so bad. So today we're pulling an all-nighter because I'm actually not too far off. It's just that I don't know, we're gonna see what's gonna require today to get this like as close to done as possible. And then after that, all I have to basically do is edit the paper. I don't think I'm gonna edit tonight. I think I'm just gonna get everything like as ready as I can. So I did hit up the Asian market. We have these little oat matchas. I love matcha, but milk kind of gives me skin issues. I still have dairy, but it messes with my skin and it's just yeah. So I was really really excited to see these. Wait, oat matcha, oat K. I don't know. I just got it at my local Asian market. It's not my local, the one by my university. Then I have these little herbal jellies. These are my favorite thing right now. They're so good. There's a lot of different flavors at the Asian market that I go to. I'm so obsessed with herbal. I love herbal jelly. And it's got like it comes in a little pack and it has the herbal jelly here and it comes with like this sweet stuff and then coconut milk and it's so good. And then this one has dried mango pieces. I don't like this one as much, the mango one. This is my favorite. It's the brown purple rice one. And next we have the snack that I'm about to make myself, like a little light dinner. I actually had dinner well, I had chicken nuggets at Leon, and then I had congee that I got at the Asian market too, and it was like instant congee, and I ate that earlier and it was really good. But now we have snack number two because it's pretty much it's 2023. It's 11:36 right now, so it's already pretty late, but I just really want to do like one little all-nighter. So I was just like I'll just eat to energize myself, but packaged rice, miso soup, and then this seasoned seaweed. And I'm probably gonna put sesame oil on the rice. So it's gonna be like a little feast right now. We're just gonna feast on these random assortment of things I got at the Asian market. I'm gonna make myself a matcha and it's gonna be good. So yes, that's what we're basically doing tonight. And you guys are gonna keep me company so I don't fall asleep because I almost fell asleep earlier. Like I laid in bed for a bit. I was so tired actually. I wasn't actually I'm not that tired because I woke up pretty late. Like I woke up at like 11, but I think I just got in bed and it was like kind of dark and I was like, ugh. It would be so nice to sleep right now, but we don't have time for sleep because after I'm done with this proposal, I also still have to study for my statistics class all weekend. I had to borrow a laptop because my laptop is too old to handle the software and I still have to finish my paper. So I have a lot to do this weekend. I also have to do job stuff for my job. But tonight, I said today, I'm gonna act as if I'm a real neuroscientist now. Like now I have to pretend tonight that this is my real job and it's not just a pipe dream. And because of that, I can dedicate my entire night to this. Okay, so here we have everything. I was gonna say a mukbang, but that's a little bit dramatic because I don't really have that much food. But it's just you're not gonna be able to see it. It's a matcha, just trust me on it. But wait, look how cute my mug is. Then we have this random rice with seaweed flakes and sesame oil. And I wish I had soy sauce, like gluten-free soy sauce, but I forgot to get it at the store and then I got lazy. And then we just have a miso soup. So that's gonna be my snack. I'm gonna set everything up really quick and then hop on to my document. Okay, here we are in my proposal. This is where the last video ended. I haven't added literally a single thing because that video ended like 3 hours ago. Like it was just 3 hours ago that I left that Leon. Yeah, I don't know. What I was doing in the last one was I was just sort of switching everything. Like I was distributing information that I had read from a really good document into different sections. I'm torn between two conflicting sort of in like desires where I want to save some stuff for my supervisor as well, but I also want this to go as quickly as possible. And I've been this has been my project, like I've worked on this by myself for the last 8 months, and I feel like I feel this ownership over I want to make the connections that are important myself because it's my thing that I've worked on so long, and I want advice and I want supervision and support, but I also want to I don't want to leave like really important connections up to I don't know. You get what I'm saying where I'm like I want to see it done. Like I want to have that satisfaction of I feel really good about this and I just need it to be tweaked and I need like a little bit extra support versus I need somebody to make really major decisions for me or support me in making like really really major decisions about my project, you know? This whole thing is really like I don't know. At the moment, I feel a little bit overwhelmed, I would say, by how much is in here. It was good to separate it out, but I also feel like I don't even understand the things I separated out enough. My cat is so weird. She doesn't like when I sit in this chair. I don't understand why. She doesn't like she every time I sit in this chair, she hates it. I think because I'm too high for her to get up to, but she wasn't even hanging out with me anyways. Like she wasn't even interested in me until I sat in this chair. Now she doesn't like that I'm in it. I don't know how to make this part. You know, what I could do is I could make it a few different documents. I'm also wary of the fact that I don't know. Can you hear my cat meowing? He's not happy. This whole thing could be a second, like an additional document, honestly. Maybe that's not a bad idea because maybe it just makes it easier. Also, it would be probably good to go into what I've already done first. I just think it's easier on the eyes, you know? I'll just be like C document B for my proposed um neural network. And then this is just gonna be what I did, you know? I have crazy dreams, actually. That's one thing about me. I have really crazy dreams. And the other night, I've been having really interesting dreams recently. And I had one the other night where there's a lot going on in the dream. I actually meditated before I went to sleep, and I had a really strange meditation that I wasn't expecting to have. But I started meditating and then I started thinking about this sounds so I don't know why, but I feel like weird, like awkward. But basically I started meditating, I started thinking about attachment and how I don't know, I just had this long meditation about attachment for some reason. It wasn't what I was meaning to sit down and think about, but it just happened. And then I fell right asleep right after. And in the dream, so a bunch of other stuff happened. And then there was this whole narrative that was happening in my hometown and all this stuff. And then I was at this beach. There's like a lot going on. But in one moment, it got lucid. So when I was younger, I wanted to have lucid dreams so bad. Or like out of body experiences. I always wanted to have one. This was when I was like, I don't know, probably like 12, 13. This is funny, but I actually took a band-aid and a piece of string and I band-aided a piece of string on my ceiling and I would lay down in bed at night and I read on how to have an out-of-body experience, but it didn't work. You were supposed to like stare at the string. And then I it didn't work, so I took the string down and I always had that band-aid on my ceiling. My parents are like, "Why do you have that band-aid on your ceiling?" I was like, I don't remember what I told them, but I had this random band-aid on my ceiling because I tried to have an out-of-body experience and it didn't work. Like I wanted to like astral project, you know. Anyways, I was kind of into spirituality stuff before, but not that much. Like when I was younger, I just thought that stuff was kind of cool. I had a weird interest, but anyways, but this 2 nights ago, I started lucid dreaming only like maybe 2 years ago. Every once in a while, I have like a random lucid dream. And last night, I lucid dreamed. I've been doing this kind of stuff more in my lucid dreams, okay? But all of a sudden, I realized that I was in a dream. And I decided that I was going to sit down and meditate and reach enlightenment in the dream. The crazy thing about lucid dreams is that you know you're dreaming, but it's kind of weird because it's like, do you know that, like, how much control do you really have? But it feels really deeply like you have control. But I think that I did that because I used to read about people like Buddhist monks, how they would meditate and they would reach a point of such deep intense like mental control that in their dreams they would also just meditate more, which is insane, but I think that that's why I was in the back of my mind. I always had that in the back of my mind, like I wish I could try that. That'd be so interesting to see, because the reason I was thinking this would be so interesting is because the thing about meditating, this is sounding so unhinged, but the thing about meditating is that you have that sort of control over your mind. But like imagine having control of your mind in a point in time when you're not meant to have control. I'm very curious neurologically, like what is the impact of that? Or I've always been so curious. I'm like, you must have intense mental control in that situation. So, anyways, so then I sat down and I started to meditate in my dream, but only for, dreams, the way they work, it feels like it's a long time, but you're probably doing it for like a millisecond. So I was meditating for a second, and then I started to have insight in my dream, and I started to be like, nothing in this dream is real. It's all an illusion. So I was like, well, if this is all an illusion, what makes anything outside of this not an illusion? It was crazy. I was scared. I was like, what? But I mean, I feel like I've had that thought before, but I was creeped out because I had it in the dream. It was like, I was like, none of this is real. But then I was like, wait, but then none of it on the outside, maybe none of it on the outside it was kind of weird. And then my mom was in the dream. Actually, we were having this whole interaction, and I started being like, Mom, I'm gonna bring you outside of the dream. I was like, don't worry, I'll take you with me outside of the dream. It was really bizarre. It was like a really creepy. It wasn't creepy. It was actually really beautiful. I was like on this beautiful beach and stuff, so it was nice. But it's really interesting that that was a location in my dream, because I think that actually was a location that I was in a traumatizing moment. But it could have been like three different places. I think it was like a mixture of multiple different places in my life that I put together, I'm so interested in dreams. I genuinely think they're so interesting. But that was really weird because I meditated before I went to sleep, had that weird creepy moment, and then it wasn't creepy. I don't know why I keep saying creepy. And then in my dream, I lucid dreamed and meditated for the first time. I want to do it again so bad. I feel like your brain would literally, like, I don't know, you'd reach some kind of insane mental clarity, you know? Anyways, not relevant to what we're doing. When I was younger though, I loved creeping myself out with stuff. I got really into what I actually liked horror stuff, but I was kind of like a scaredy pants about it. Like one year, my friend on the bus, he lent me no, he told me about The Sixth Sense, the horror movie. I was committed to watching it all by myself. I went up to we had this little loft area in my attic. And I didn't let my parents watch it with me. I was like, I'm going to watch it by myself. And I got really scared. I was really into like creepy pasta, like Slender Man. But I got really, really paranoid because I believed in Slender Man. Like, I didn't understand that Slender Man was a creepy pasta. If you don't know what Slender Man is, wait, then I swear we're going to get into this. But I feel like today is kind of sleepover vibes because I'm doing a little all-nighter. So this is like sleepover with me, and I'm going to tell you random stuff. If you have never heard of Slender Man, it's like this there's these things called creepypastas. If you're not my age, like you might not have heard of this, but creepypastas, it was like this community of people that wrote these sort of scary stories that sounded like they were real, but they weren't. At least every single one of the ones I read was made to sound like a real thing, but it was fake. And there was a Slender Man video game. I don't know which came first, but I just went through a phase where I really liked creepypasta, but I was into Slender Man first. And I didn't know that he was a creepypasta, like that story. I thought it was a real thing. And I would watch YouTube documentaries about Slender Man. People were crazy. They would make these like fake images of him. Like, I don't know, maybe I was deeply disturbed or something. I don't know what was going on in my head. Like this. They had these like fake pictures from like that they were made to look like they're from the past, but they had Slender Man in it. Oh my god, I'm getting creeped out right now the way I would when I was a kid. The thing is, Slender Man just creeps up on you. Like he just kind of appears and then he kills you. But he sort of lurks off into the back and he's just standing there. And when I was younger, I didn't understand that he was fake. And I mean, I knew it was like kind of fake, but I kind of thought it was real, to be honest, because people made these really realistic documentaries. So I started getting really paranoid. I would get really scared at night because I was convinced Slender Man was right outside my window. And when we would be out in like the woods, I was convinced that he was there and he was following us and stuff. I got really paranoid about Slender Man for like a year. I would get really freaked out. I don't know why I love scary stuff, but I'm I get so creeped out, like in high school. And this person, I got like a spam call, like some kind of scammer, but they called my phone. Oh my God, it sends a chill down my spine even to this day. It was like they called me, but they called me through my own phone number. I don't know how, I don't know why. What would compel you to do that? The fear that ran down my spine was insane. I was like, that is something from a horror movie. What's gonna happen? I didn't answer, but I was like, or maybe I did and it was a scammer, but I was like, oh my, I was like, this could be me from the past. This could be me from the future. This could be somebody who's trying to kill me and they're like using, I don't know. I just like every single scenario ran through my head in a millisecond when I saw that like I was getting a call from myself. I was terrified. I was so scared. I actually get creeped out like a lot. I don't, people who watch true crime are on a different wavelength than me because, or like a whole different level because I can't do true crime. I will get instantly convinced that somebody is like, that's like some kind of sign that that's going to happen to me or something. I don't know, but I swear, like, I would get so paranoid if I listened to true crime that it was going to happen to me, even though, like, obviously I never thought about that before listening to the true crime, but all of a sudden I would be convinced that it's going to happen to me. I don't know how people do it. Anyways, so this is just going to, I guess, be a second document that I'm probably going to attach with it. I just feel like there's so much information to this, and I want the proposal to sort of be readable. Oh my gosh. The other one that creeped me out was Lavender Town. I don't even remember the full story. I don't know. I just went through a middle school phase where like I had weird interests, but I miss it. I was kind of a weird kid, I would say. Like, I don't know. It's I've modeled a lot of my Mango models off of like I wanted to make it really close to what I read in my study, but I haven't reached that point where I'm able to wrap my head around this yet. But I think that the new ones are probably going to be even like more abstracted, if that makes sense. Like I'll probably just have sort of an idea of how it should operate versus copying the experiment, obviously probably, but I haven't reached the level where my head can like wrap around what that is going to look like. So I don't know how to put that yet. Because the thing is, I don't know like why is like for example my medium arousal study, this is something I probably will talk to my supervisor about. In my medium arousal group, when they when the maybe it really doesn't matter what percentage of ACH they get to, but they got to actually a higher ACH percentage than the medium group, but they were only there for like a second. So I think that's why it wasn't really that impactful. So it's not like a direct correlation where a more stressful thing makes more acetylcholine come up. It's just that you get stuck in that state and that impacts you. So that's the thing. I'm gonna be honest with you. I don't know what half this stuff means. I don't really know what like pair-based update rule for synaptic connections, et cetera, et cetera. I don't really know what that means. Oh, change of the weight of a synaptic connection depends on the temporal difference between pairs. Okay. It doesn't really mean much to me at the moment. I want it to mean something to me. You get me? Like I want to understand everything, but I'm not at that level of advancedness yet to understand what that means. I feel like, it's like adjacent things are clicking, but it's not the full thing where I have no idea what these rules are. So here's this stress related plasticity rule. I need to actually hunt down and see if I can get like the exact specifications of what that means, essentially. Because I've read around in different papers, but I don't have that yet. I'm getting lazy. I'm so lazy right now to do this. Okay, this probably shouldn't be here because I'm saying this is what's already included in the junk study. I think I need to explain up here what my neural network is gonna like essentially do. So it's gonna have pattern separation, arousal, memory binding. This isn't final. This is just me dumping memory binding, acetylcholine consolidation and encoding, CA3 to CA1. I don't know enough. I just feel like I don't know enough and I'm learning a lot, but it's a hassle. I just want it to be done like this week because I really want to go to Switzerland, first of all. Also because this is exhausting, and also because I'm tired of feeling behind on my assignments. So I better drink this matcha because we are literally going to be up all night. So I'm gonna say the study I have, I'm assuming they're gonna send this to me. Okay. I know they're looking for it. I know there's no reason why they wouldn't send it to me, and I know it's already in action that they're actually attempting to find it. Will they find it? Probably, but I'm gonna assume for now. If not, I'm gonna cry myself to sleep for the rest of my life. Just kidding. I'm actually excited also to show this to the person that I hope will be my supervisor. We talked about all of this stuff in my class. Like, we had a class on all of this. We even talked about place cells and everything. So I was kind of shook, but obviously the place cells guy I don't know if he still teaches at UCL, but he was at UCL. So obviously they're gonna throw him in there. I mean, obviously because it was important to the hippocampus, the classes on the hippocampus, but they had to like mention it again because we're at UCL and he's from UCL. So yes. But we talked about all of this. I mean, not all of this, but we talked about place cells, we talked about I guess the function of the hippocampus, what the hippocampus is for. So I doubt maybe he has read this paper. Maybe, I don't know. Let's see. I mean, maybe. But it's such a I literally think this is such a cool paper and such a cool computational model. Again, I've said that before, but I genuinely think it's really cool. So, anyways, I just think it's so cool the idea that you could actually get a readout, like a replay of the same memories. And I think it's cool that they have like a fake space is so interesting. That's what I really like about this study. And yeah. But anyways, so this is my very bad summary that's gonna get improved. I think I actually need to go back and re-understand certain things that I'm like, I understand it, but I don't understand it enough to describe it. This is the thing, is that they say that that somebody is actually smart, like if they can take a really difficult concept and explain it in a way that's simple and that people can understand. I always thought that that was such a true statement. That's such a true idea. Because it means that you deeply understand what you're talking about, and you're not just sort of word vomiting it back out. And I'm word vomiting a lot of stuff back out. I don't understand everything fully. Even though I understand it in my head, I'm having a hard time writing certain stuff. I mean, I think I'm doing a fine job of like utilizing it. And I don't know, but I just could build my understanding like quite a bit. And I kind of need to be able to explain certain things. I'm gonna say it's gonna include all of that they already did, plus pattern separation, arousal, memory binding, this acetylcholine. It's just a night of I need to understand things. So I'm gonna turn this video off for now. I'm gonna down my matcha. I might put something on my TV, and I'm just gonna try to fill the gaps in my understanding. Let's not lie to ourselves. I'm probably gonna be back in like 2 seconds because it really helps me to speak things. Like, it helps me to say it out loud. I think that's one of the reasons that I've really gained a lot of knowledge over this process, is that my YouTube videos, they say the best way to learn something is to teach other people. And my YouTube videos have been just for me to work on this project, but I feel like I'm explaining everything to another person and I'm teaching everything to another person, even though I don't know. But I think that it really helps me to actually say out loud what I'm doing. So I'll probably be back, I'm not gonna lie, and I'll probably explain all of this to you. Okay, just to add to the sleepover vibe, we have options. We could watch The Nanny. I got the full box set. We could watch 30 Rock, which I've been watching recently. Again, I thrifted this. Getting an Xbox that has like I could watch DVDs on, literally best decision I ever made. It's so fun. I've been just compiling so many cool DVDs at the thrift store. But anyways, we also have The Holiday, or we could watch The Theory of Everything. I watched this again last. This is one of those movies that you watch on an airplane, you know? Like it's like one of those airplane movies that they have the selection and then it's like, you know what? Why not? And I watched this movie last year or like a year and a half ago now. I watched it on the airplane and it was pretty good. Maybe because we're doing science right now, it's like a good science movie. It actually really inspired me a lot and we take so much for granted. It made me sad. I was like, I as someone who's really mentally active, I can't even imagine like I would have felt really frustrated to have lost my mobility like that. I can't even imagine and I don't know. Just gave me very deep respect for Stephen Hawking. But anyways, okay. We're gonna watch the theory of everything then and I'm just gonna work on my stuff. He's finally happy. I'm basically what I'm doing right now. I just hunted down some texts on stress and plasticity, like rules to see how I can do that. Because I did read that those rules changed in some of my rat studies, but I haven't found like I didn't keep sort of I didn't find more I haven't gone out of my way yet to find more backup for that, essentially. And we're just watching Theory of Everything. Here he is, Cambridge, England, 1963. Cambridge is my backup. That's my backup trip if I don't finish this week. If I don't finish this proposal this week. Because I'm trying to reward myself, but if I don't finish it this week, it's a day trip to Cambridge. You know, it's like I do want to go visit Cambridge, but it's kind of my sad option because then I don't get to do like a whole trip. So this is helping me to lock in. It's like, okay, you've already seen it in the movie, so you don't have to go again. Just kidding. I will go anyways. First of all, both these actors are so beautiful. They are so beautiful. That's the first thing. Second of all, I love this movie and the romance is so cute. Okay, that's number two. Third of all, I was thinking because I am watching this today and I was just I feel like actually I've been having a little bit of this identity crisis as I've gone through this project because I think that a lot of the times this is the representation that we usually see of people doing smart things. You get usually men. Okay, usually it's movies about men. And so I feel this pull as I'm doing science, particularly because science is so masculinized, I think, or not masculinized, but you know, that's the typical image you see of a scientist. I keep feeling this pull that like when I talk about my ideas or when I'm like doing science that I'm like, do I sound more like a guy, you know? And I don't really like it. Or I feel like if I'm emulating, like I have to emulate men in science because that's the people that I see. And then it makes me feel like kind of icked out, no, or just kind of like yeah. And then first of all, that's the first thing. Second of all, a lot of other times when you see like this is the thing, you usually get these movies with scientists or smart people. Usually it's like these guys and they're like very like I don't know how to put it. Like I don't know how to put it. These like upright professor types are like they're so brilliant and like they're just speaking in this very brilliant way and they're like they're men and they're brilliant, you know. You know what I mean? So it's like should I feel like this pull like I need to emulate. But if I'm gonna be doing something that they would do, where it's like I don't really wanna I don't know, that makes me feel weird or outside of myself. So that's one. The other typical other image that you see of smart people. I've been watching math and science movies. I actually watched Hidden Figures recently. And I so that's an alternative representation that I did like with women in science. I watched what's it called? Good Will Hunting. I watched Good Will Hunting. If you I feel like often also, well, you know what? Will in the movie is he's pretty nice, but he's kind of a jerk. He's just kind of a jerk and I feel like I've met plenty of really smart people that are also kind of jerky and I'm like, do I need to be I don't know. It's like I don't know. I feel like it's like okay, you're either a man, you're a jerk, or you're just really cold and calculating. A lot of the times when you see women in movies and they're really smart, they're like cold and calculating, like Queen's Gambit, you know? where they're just like, I don't know. So I've just been having the I know it sounds kind of strange, but I've just been having this kind of identity crisis. Like I think see myself speaking in a more scientific way, and I'm like, I feel this like this sort of embarrassment of feeling more like I'm speaking like a boy or like a man, where it's like, I don't know, I think it's not that. I think it's just that we don't usually see, I don't know, I haven't gotten much representation of women in science, where it's like I don't know who to be. And then I feel like people think that, this is the other thing, is that I think that people think that smart people are deep down conniving and manipulative, and to like the most smart people would be conniving and out for themselves. Where personally I feel like the smarter I get, the more full of love I am, and the more I want to give to people and share with people and do things for people. I don't feel like coldness is necessarily an intelligence thing, or I don't feel like people being like, that's the thing that I was thinking about Good Will Hunting. I was like, and I did Good Will Hunting's an amazing movie. I know I met one other person who supposedly was very smart, didn't seem to think the same of, I don't know, we had a bit of a conflict. They didn't think that I was very smart, I guess, at the time. Or no. They said that they no, they thought that I wasn't smart, but it turns out I was secretly manipulatively secretly smart. I was like, I wasn't trying to ever sound stupid. Anyways, it was a very interesting person in my life. But anyways, but they were really smart. Like I'll hand it to them. They were a very intelligent person, and um they were that kind of, but they were also had that kind of personality where I think sometimes it's like smart people are very like, they're very like cutting, and they can sort of see that little seed in you that like you just don't like that thing about yourself, and they're gonna like attack that thing, where I just don't feel the need to do that. I can read people very well. I'm a good reader of people, but I don't feel the need to like yank at somebody's insecurities like that. Where I think that they had that in Good Will Hunting too, where it was like he's so tortured. I will say I was pretty tortured myself. I went through some very torturous situations in life and stuff, but I don't feel the need to do that. I just, it just seems so cruel, And I don't know if that's because of the way that I was raised, or just because I'm a girl, you don't really get that. I feel like a lot of times smart women are portrayed as very rude or very like cold or very something like that. So I've been feeling a little bit like, I don't know. Like I think that that person will they basically explained that they thought I was stupid because they thought I acted like kind of a bimbo. I'm like, I first of all, I don't think that I ever act like a bimbo. Like I definitely don't. But I just think I'm a nice person, and I'm not trying to be rude, and I'm not going to pick at your insecurities. And so I think that that maybe came, and I'm also like, I'll say it myself, I'm kind of a girly girl. Like I'm not, over the top, but like I am a girl. And I think that they just like that's like the why they didn't think I was very smart. And then like they said that they I was secretly smart. I don't know at what point they suddenly decided I was smart. I don't know what I did. I don't know if we just had a good conversation that at some point down the line they decided I was smart, but secretly and manipulatively. This person was that person was a whole entire, I don't know, that was a story, but anyways. But yeah, so I was just like, I don't know, I've been having this identity crisis. Like, do I sound stupid? Do I need to sound more like a man to seem smart? Or like, stuff like that, where I'm like, I don't think that I sound like a bimbo. I just think that I am an agreeable person, and I'm a pretty nice person, but I'm just a girl. So I think people, because I'm a nice woman, like that's just not smart people are either, you're either cold, rude woman, or you're like a man. I don't know. But anyways, yeah, so I've been just having a little bit of like this identity crisis as I go into this project that like, do I sound stupid? I don't know. Well, anyways, what I'm gonna do is that I'm gonna go back and I'm gonna put here the rules that er, I don't have plasticity rules yet. The only thing that I fully remember is that basically after, in the post stress time section, whatever, of the rats that were in the acetylcholine, they had like a post stress period essentially. I know that after that they had a period of long term depression. I'm gonna double check that I saw that across the board, but So this right here, I'm actually gonna throw this in ChatGPT just to double check that I'm understanding everything. But basically, what it's saying, I've read this about 1,000 times now. Basically, what it's saying is that while usually what happens is that the acetylcholine sort of it's excitatory to hippocampal pyramidal cells. So they start to sort of like beep 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 like light up, like be energized. But what they found was that actually in this situation where they were trapped, that wasn't happening because there was more inhibition of the stressor. So maybe the stress chemicals were going up or something, and the it was stopping that from happening. And then after they left, there was a long-term depression. So let me find that again. Oh yeah, it's here. The response was depressed for several minutes. I don't know if it's long-term depression, but the response was depressed. So I think I may have gotten that off as well, but let me double check. ChatGPT is so random. You've picked a really rich paragraph. The compliment was not necessary, but thank you. It'll just be complimenting me for anything. This is one of my hard things. I don't know how I'm gonna find more information about this, but I keep saying that and somehow I keep being able to, but I just am nervous because I'm depending on this a lot. I'm not gonna go into this in my proposal. I'm gonna go into this in my paper probably, but they thought that maybe that big increase after they left was because of movement. And that might be the case, but I was reading other studies that were giving reasons why maybe that's not something like that. Or I don't know. I just feel like I'm not even to the point that I want to be in it with this, but I need to submit it because it's my proposal. Out of curiosity, I'm gonna ask how this might appear, like how might this impact memory? Just because I'm curious. I'm obviously gonna see that probably in my neural network. I'm curious what ChatGPT's guess is. Basically the ACH isn't, yeah, it's just not making things more active and excitable. So basically the hippocampus wouldn't be able to wire together co-occurring inputs if its excitatory drive is dampened. That means fewer or weaker bound representations, poor episodic memory formation. I want to have all these conversations with my actual advisor. I think I just need to get as much as I can done, and then I think that they'll help me a lot because I'm just getting tired of making these connections. I want to have the main things ready, like the how the neural net what the neural network is even supposed to do. I want to understand that and have it ready. But some of this stuff I can ask them about because obviously I'm not going to build anything until I speak to them first and then even speak to a second advisor that does computational modeling. So it's going to go through rounds, hopefully. Okay, this is exactly what I was already predicting. So if hippocampal plasticity is suppressed while amygdala activity is maintained or enhanced, then emotional or salient features of an event may be remembered better and contextual or relational details may be forgotten. I mean, that's exactly what I'm thinking. So stress can cause memory narrowing. You remember the arousing element but lose the surrounding context. Well, that's exactly what I'm saying. I just need to find more papers to back that this is happening so then I can do this exact thing. But why? Oh, because the amygdala is still active. The thing is that it's so hard to think, how am I going to find more papers with this information? You know, what do I search? Okay, this chat doesn't know anything about my project and it's hypothesizing things that I said. So that makes me feel excited or happy. Good job, ChatGPT, on that. Okay, well, I mean, that's actually exactly what I'm talking about. Well, it knew I was doing, never mind. I was like, oh, how is it just pulling this together? I was already talking to it about arousal and memory binding. So I think it just kind of I think that's why it's talking about like amygdala and stuff. I was just like, how did it know this? But it doesn't have all the information from my project, but I think it was able to like get a sense of the context of why I was asking this, which is still really, really cool. It's cool that it does that, but okay. So my question, how do I find this is what I was searching stress and neuroplasticity in escapability, but I got some papers open, but I want more about that same effect. Okay, what I'm seeing just in the titles is that the amygdala is going to be more active probably during stress. That makes sense, but it also that's my cue, I think. I need to have a cue as to how those rules are gonna start operating. Like the amygdala tags that this is stressful, and then because of that, the excitability isn't going up, and then the amygdala is overactive that whole time. I usually this rarely does this work. Rarely does it work for me to ask this and to actually use to get something, but I'm gonna ask, what would I search to find more papers about this exact? ChatGPT is not good at finding actual papers. I've never, like, only one time or something has it actually effectively found me a research paper on the topic that I'm asking for that is useful and like good and everything. That is not its strong suit at all. It's not that good, but maybe I could search, like, I do think I've asked it to do this before. I don't know if I was really that satisfied with what I got, but I'm gonna try some of these. I'm just nervous that there's not gonna be enough information. Okay, wait. No, actually, I did a great job. These are good papers so far. This is exactly what I was looking for. Well, I mean, will it actually be that when I read them? Who knows? But it looks like it. Okay, I'm gonna take a mini break to maybe have some more caffeine because the matcha was fine, but it just I'm not really that caffeinated, and I'm also still kind of hungry for like a snack. So yes, I'm gonna do that and then try to start reading these papers. Okay, I'm making a pistachio latte, which is my current favorite. But this was my other thought on my previous thought process. This is what I think is so interesting is that I think that a lot of people have this idea that you see in like superhero movies and things that really smart people must be really manipulative and that they would like sort of look out only for themselves or etc. And I know they're probably like I see that archetype a lot, or I think that there's certain groups of people that portray themselves as these really intelligent people because they have certain this or that. I'm gonna just keep it vague. I think there's certain groups of people that think and they're very successful and they think that that's just because that they're selfish because they're highly intelligent. But I don't think that that's it. I think that they are just selfish and also probably intelligent people. I don't think that there's anything about intelligence that would make you like innately want to be selfish because for me, I'm like, I don't see a singular, this is the thing. I don't see a singular reason why I should like I am so intimately invested in the well-being of everybody else on earth because that to me that's just the natural smart conclusion because we really rely on each other and are so dependent on each other for our survival and we're so interconnected that why on earth would I do something that would severely diminish the ability of other people to succeed or even for example destroy planet earth. I'm like, what? How? I'm sorry, these some certain people claim that they're really intelligent and they have like they're just doing anything that they can to just completely like go into power and gain this sort of like these completely destroy these regulations that just completely destroy earth and they're so self-centered and they think that they sort of cosplay as highly intelligent sort of genius people. Not going to name names, but I have a certain up there group of individuals in my head, and I think that they just cosplay as really intelligent, and they're really fascinated, and they're very like self-absorbed in this idea that they're these like super intelligent people, and that's why they've made it, and that's why they're like so powerful and all this stuff. Where it's like you're not there because intelligent people aren't innately manipulative, you're just manipulative. Intelligent people aren't innately selfish, you're just selfish. It's not the natural conclusion to think that you should look out for yourself and yourself alone. That's just a you thing. That's just a your personality thing. And that's not a smart thing. That's actually the stupidest thing ever to do. I'm sorry, but I'm like, we are so innately connected with each other that like why on earth my natural conclusion each and every time is that you should continue to do things that are going to be for the benefit of everybody and for the benefit of all of us like growing and being like getting better and all of us being supported, all of us having more resources, all of us being, kinder to the earth. This is the thing is that I think people teach like or they have this conception that like this idea that intelligent people are like are these like cruel manipulative individuals. No, you're just cruel. That's not a smart thing. That's just that's just a really, really like narrow focus thing that you have because you can't think outside of yourself, and that doesn't make you more intelligent at all. In fact, I think it's definitely the opposite. And yeah, I just think that there's nothing unintelligent about being kind. There's nothing unintelligent about being loving, creating a more gentle world for each other, and creating a good space for each other. Because why on earth would I knowing that everything is going to come back to me in some way, shape, or form, why on earth would I create harm in another person's life knowing that that harm is going to radiate out into others, and then in some way, shape, or form come back to me too? And like, why would I step over people, or like sort of try to step on, smash their sort of intentions to do more for the world, or to uplift themselves, or to uplift their group of people, or to anything? I'm like, I love that. You should be more successful, because the more we have everybody overall being more successful, being more productive, etc., the better it is for everybody. Then I benefit too. Like, I think helping other people gain benefit is not, the people act like it's a sign of weakness, and that truly intelligent people are really mean and self-centered and look out for themselves just because you can be. And it's like, no, that's actually the opposite. I personally don't think that at all. I don't, I think that's just a you thing. You know what I mean? When it comes to these individuals, like, you're just mean. You're not smart, you're just mean. That's not a smart thing to be mean. It's just a mean thing. It's just a you're mean thing. And yeah, I don't really understand. It's like, I think it's just like, oh, well, you have the potential to be really mean to people, where it's like, yeah, but you don't have like mental control over yourself. You don't have that like awareness, and you don't have that control over yourself to be like, I don't have to be that way, and it's going to be harmful to be that way. That doesn't speak positively to you. And I don't really like, that's what I really don't that's what I don't enjoy about that story. And I just never, if people are going to think I'm a bimbo because I'm nice, it's like, well, so be it. Like, I'm not going to be like a rude person. I'm not going to be a mean person because I'm smart. I can see people's weaknesses and faults sometimes. Does that mean I'm going to tear into them? No, why would I do that? That's so hurtful. And I wouldn't want it done to myself. Or would I want it done? Like, why would I do that to another person? Why would I create that kind of negativity that's just going to generate negativity back towards me? Like, I don't see the point in that. I'm here on earth for like one life. I just want to create like a better space for people and have a good space for me. I just like never ever understood that story at all. And I think that it's so funny how people up in power, like certain sort of individuals that really, really try to portray themselves as these really intelligent people that are so successful because they're intelligent. It's like, it's not because you're intelligent, it's because you're highly manipulative. You are intelligent too, but the reason you act like that, and the reason that you hoard, and the reason that you put your own needs above others, it's because you're manipulative, and you're selfish. It's not because you're smart. That's not a smart trait, you know? That's my personal opinion. That's my personal take. That's, I don't know. That's just my opinion. Look who finally figured out how to not be upset by the chair. Hi. Okay. Okay, well, here we are. So, effects of chronic stress on hippocampal long-term potentiation. I thought it was going to be such a massive thing, but apparently a number of studies have reported a suppression of hippocampal synaptic plasticity with acute stress. So, I got all stressed out for nothing. I was like, how am I going to find this? All this stuff. So, I guess we're going to look at those studies in a second. I'm going to read that. But yeah, I also, so what we're gonna do after that is I'm gonna, actually was remembering while I was reading that I have those, all those different rat studies that I've been super resistant to putting into my proposal because I'm lazy, contain information. They contain information that would support this. So okay, that's it. I'll be back. Okay, now I got in a good flow, and I'm gonna talk through what I'm learning right now. So even though I'm personally so interested in chronic stress, I think that'll be so relevant for me in the long term. Technically, the study is still acute stress. So I want to see what's the impact of this on acute stress. I'm still highly interested in chronic stress, and will read this again, etc. for that. But first of all, let me rename this so I don't lose it. So I guess this is actually, every time this happens, I'm so grateful. I think, how I only found this in one paper. I'm never going to find it again. How am I going to find more papers with this? And then it turns out to be something that's like, oh, it's really not. It's like a lot of people have mentioned this already. So, okay, so apparently that's already, it's like well measured to a certain degree that exposure to acute stress produced a reduction in LTP in the CA1 field of hippocampal slices. This was immediately following the stressor. And they saw that that happened right after the stressor. And then later, these recordings were performed a number of hours later. And under using a similar stress paradigm, a reduction in LTP was also observed in the CA1 field of anesthesia. Okay. In both studies, the effects were seen starting at 2 hours following the stressor. So this isn't the. It's interesting that this was 2 hours following the stressor, but this one they saw it right away. I want to come back to this specific thing because I'm not fully convinced that the ACH release impact was only because of movement. I have a few different reasons why I say this, but this is one of them. Well, okay, I'll come back to this. It probably is movement too, but I don't think it's just movement. I think it's like probably a combination of things and maybe movement too, because that post-stress effect was also in other studies that I saw that I need to add to this paper. I thought of Tom and Jerry for some reason. More recently, it was also reported that an acute exposure of rats to a cat produced a reduction in prime burst potentiation in the CA1 in vitro. Poor Jerry. It's always the cold stress ones are like the bane of my existence because people will be measuring a really similar thing and it's always the cold stress group. I think there's something about cold stress because across the board, I will see there's a pattern in every single study. And then in the cold stress group, you'll see the exact opposite thing. Like I'm trying to think of, oh, in the cold stress group in another study that I read, instead of the ACH going up, it went down or something like that. It was something really random. And I was like, why? But the cold stress rat groups are the bane of my existence because they gaslight me. I don't know. They make me feel because I feel like they make me question my sanity and my existence because they didn't see the LTP being suppressed. There's something about cold stress, I think, because how is that happening again? Okay, there's like a mixed bag of different things that they found. Okay, it says it might be based on different sort of like what your study type is. I'm lucky that I've been basing all of mine off of these restraint stress ones, and they seem pretty across the board, like they're pretty like in support of this. So I'm gonna copy paste this in. I'm actually really excited to see how my future advisors, like I've said, I'm actually excited to see what they're gonna think just because this is so extremely random. Like this is really, really random that I did this, and it's really, really random that I'm submitting this for my empirical project. Like it's not normal. Like this is not a normal thing to do that much. So I'm really curious to see what's going to be the reaction to me submitting this 18-page proposal with a side document with a computational model like written up. Like how is this going to go? I'm really, really curious to see because it's just so it's really random. What's interesting is that I was just reading that there's differences in terms of whether someone can escape or not. It when you can escape, it kind of puts you, I mean, you're still stressed, but other stuff isn't really that thrown off. Like, for example, the long-term potentiation in animals that were allowed to escape the stressor wasn't really thrown off at all. It's only when you really can't escape the stress that you get that impact. I mean, I don't know if in humans because I don't know. At this point in humans, like we're not having any kind of intense stressor isn't really that normal. Well, maybe. I don't know actually. I have no idea, but I think anything would be traumatizing. Even if somebody came and was trying to attack me, I mean, I'm sure it would be even worse if they were trying to attack me and I was like tied to a chair. But even if they tried to attack me and I was running away from them, I would still be pretty traumatized. I don't know, but it would probably be worse if I couldn't get away from them. That would be scary. Okay, that's all I'm going to read from this for right now. That was good information. And then I'm going to jump to some other studies, but it's good they say that there's all these other studies that, well, I'm not going to even read them. I trust. I don't need all that for this proposal. Again, ChatGPT, this is not ChatGPT strong suit. Okay, so example, the only question I asked was if a rat was kept in a restraint tube for 2 hours and got tail shocks for 30 of those minutes, is that acute stress? Because that was my study. And it started giving me like a lot of information. And I basically told me that like the name of this paper. For example, classic papers by these people and colleagues use this exact paradigm to study acute uncontrollable stress effects on this, and that. I searched these exact names with this hippocampal LTP. Not a single thing came up. So I don't that might not be just a ChatGPT issue, but that is really ChatGPT's weak point. It doesn't know how to find papers and it frequently gets the name of the authors wrong. Like one time it told me that Michael E. Haselmo wrote this computational model that I was reading, but it was like a Japanese university. So I was like, that's just not accurate at all. So it's not that great at doing that for some reason. But I found this one in the meantime. This is actually a big stressor off my back though, because this was one of the big anxieties I was having about this paper is am I going to be able to find like really back that effect, because I was just worried like what if that was only in my paper that I read and all this stuff. And especially because I got advice from somebody that I know who is now she's a professor. She was doing a postdoc in neuroscience, but she was the one who kind of she pointed out to me very appropriately that I should make sure that those rat studies are fine because they're a bit on the old side. You just want to make sure they're like, there's an update to it that kind of backs that. I don't know. But so I was kind of nervous, like, okay, I only have it, I was only finding it so far in those studies and et cetera, et cetera. But now I see that there's like a body of work that supports that, which is good. For some reason, they did a lot of acetylcholine and stress studies in like the 90s. It's really, I haven't found that many recently. I don't know if people just didn't get as, weren't as interested, but there was a lot in like the 90s and then in like 80s, 90s, but I just haven't found updated ones that much. At least not on acute stress and etc. I hate when you're reading a paper and it's just like a wall of terminology. It would probably have deep meaning to me if I really understood everything, but this is just a wall of words to me right now because it's very chemical. Okay, I don't understand what PSLTP is, but this sounds important. That's how I've gone through my whole paper. I don't know what that is, but that sounds promising. So we're gonna ask what this means. It's so random. The sentence packs a lot into a few words. Okay. It's insane to me that you can cut that piece of brain open and 2 out like I thought that if you were to cut a brain open like that, that everything would just stop. You know, I don't understand exactly how they get the readouts. That's not, I don't know. I'm just curious. I need to understand that. I mean, I don't need to right now, so it's not important, but I'm just like, well, how does that work? That's so strange. So in this study, they found that in acute stress, 2 hours after the immobilization stress, the neurons showed stronger LTP than those from unstressed rats. What I'm thinking though is that usually the rats were still, in other papers that I read, the rats were still having a post stress sort of die down after the stress. So, for example, in the study that I'm citing, for the first hour afterwards, the acetylcholine was actually still up. So they were still in learning mode. They weren't in consolidation mode yet. And I'm wondering if that's why. Well, I guess not. After recovery, became more plastic, possibly due to rebound neuromodulatory or hormonal effects. I'm gonna ask if that would be the same thing as what I'm saying. And how does this all go together with the study that said they saw long-term depression after release? Okay, so it says not the same thing. So during stress, the hippocampus is suppressed, the ESPS and firing rates go down despite rising levels of neuromodulators. This is because inhibitory and hormone signals dominate. Okay, we already learned that, preventing LTP and reducing excitability. So you get high ACH but low net excitability. Um, so the brain is flooded with modulators, but their effects are gated by inhibitory circuits. But after stress, there's that sort of post-stress or recovery period where inhibition begins to lift, but neuromodulators like ACH are still elevated for some time. This creates a very special physiological window. ACH levels are still high, which enhances attention, theta rhythm, and readiness for plasticity. The glucocorticoids have shifted, and inhibition and stress-related suppression fade, so excitatory drive can emerge again. I personally think this is one of the reasons that you saw that uptick. They said it was because of movement, but I think that one of the reasons that it went up after, because this is the thing in the study that I looked at, it was at like 150%, and then after they left the stress, it actually went up to like 190% or something. And I think that this could be one of the reasons why, personally, because of that rebound period where the ACH is still up as well, but the inhibition maybe isn't as necessary. I don't know. I mean, I don't know, but I kind of think that that's one of the reasons. Okay. So, but what I'm asking, I just want to double check that I'm just asking stupid questions probably, but I just want to make sure that I'm understanding. This is a fantastic nuanced question. You're thinking like a systems neuroscience. What is a systems neuroscientist? I honestly don't, I've never heard that term before, but thank you. Okay, so you get stressed, then you're fine, but your brain is ready, probably in case another stressful thing happens or something. And then if something else were to happen, there would be stronger than usual LTP. That's probably very, very relevant for something like complex post-traumatic stress disorder, I would imagine. But maybe not, because maybe it's not, like maybe it's too far apart of episodes. But okay, I don't know why I'm getting kind of overwhelmed, even though this is like good, but I don't know, for some reason I think I'm overthinking it, where it's like this is exactly what I already knew anyways, but it just gave me different information about it and now I'm confused. I actually already knew this, but it's good to have this language. That's cool. Um, I think I finished that paper then, or did I not? Okay, well, that's all I'm gonna take from this. I'm gonna go ahead and copy paste that. This probably has some relevance for me, but I'm gonna just out of curiosity, I'm gonna try to understand this. So I guess this next section of my proposal is gonna be about the stress effect, the post-stress effect. I need to add a lot of documents to my little notes document too. I've been really behind on that. That's like my big thing. Again, this is all gonna get condensed into shorter little chunks of stuff. Unless I want to keep something, like I feel really attached to something that's said. But no, this is actually, I know it seems like, oh, you only read two, like it's only a few papers and stuff, but that actually took a massive stress off my back because I genuinely, that was one of the things I was really, 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 really nervous about, and just like, what do I do with this? So, okay, I'm gonna take a second to eat an herbal jelly and watch Theory of Everything. It's 2:39 a.m. When I say all-nighter, I mean all-nighter. Like, I'm gonna not go to sleep until I feed my cat if I can, because I really want to get some like good chunk of this done. Okay, I'm gonna go eat my herbal jelly. But this was actually big right here, actually. Okay, my herbal jelly. I'm at the part where Stephen Hawking gets his like they say he's a doctor. I think I'm misunderstanding how physics works. But I'm so confused. Like, I mean, I know it's mathematical, but it's so theoretical. And I'm like, you can't prove it. I mean, he showed that there could be what? I don't honestly understand. I think that's the reason. I don't, because I have never actually read his work, so I don't know what it was he even proved. Space time singularity, something like that. It's like they said it was a great theory, which I know that it is, but I don't shoot me. Okay, I'm sorry. I don't understand physics enough to understand how so much of physics seems like, well, you can't prove it. Like, okay, or it's so, you prove it through math. How can you prove that there was a black hole at the beginning of space? That's like, you know how, okay, a few videos ago, I had this insane theory, totally just for fun. Like it's not an actual theory. I do not believe this is true. I just was having fun tripping myself out, thinking about crazy stuff. And I was like, what if we are like the cell of a massive other being and we wouldn't even know it? Well, I guess maybe if I had the math to prove that. I don't know. It's like how do you like how can you distinguish that that would be true? And but I feel like okay, I love physics. I'm not even trying to be hateful. It's this is coming from a place of pure ignorance about physics. I'm just like how does that equate to you're a doctor now? I guess because he probably did really advanced mathematics and stuff, but I'm just confused. How do you show that? Like what if I was like Santa Claus? Santa Claus actually brought the earth in a big bag. And I'll do the math to prove it. If I did the math to prove that, would people support me? Real questions. I think I'm just delirious because it's 3 in the morning. Again, don't shoot me. This is me being delirious at 3 in the morning on this crazy project. But like, okay, he's like a hardcore atheist in this movie. Not hardcore, but he's like firmly atheist. And I feel like a lot of people that are in physics are maybe a lot of them are atheists. I know some of them weren't. I know plenty of them aren't. But what I think is so funny is that I feel like a lot of physics is so theoretical that what is distinguishing that so much from like a spiritual concept in a way. Again, this is coming from a place of pure ignorance about physics, but I'm like, physics is so like there was a black hole at the beginning of time or something. Again, I know there's probably so much more backing for that. And I'm a spiritual person. I'll admit it. I feel like spirituality for me, it's a lot of feeling and trusting and faith and all that. So I'm not coming at them. I just think it's so funny because I think that physics is also so like you have to do all of this deep imagining that you can't really see. Nobody will. I mean, we can do it through math, but you can never fully. I mean, it would probably take a lot of knowledge building for us to ever truly know why the earth came to be, why the universe, I mean the earth, yeah, the universe, why did the universe come to be? And I feel like physics is also sort of an act of faith in a way. Like, this is a thing is that a lot of people, myself included, I did start to believe I used to be an atheist. I started to feel spiritual. I started to believe in God and stuff. I don't care for other people to be spiritual. I'm never gonna be one of those people. It's like I'm gonna go and convert everybody. I feel it, right? I feel like the fact that I'm here made me feel really spiritual, etc. Okay. I'm not feel self-conscious sharing my faith sometimes because people, for some reason, people who don't like are not of a faith, a lot of the times they're really like really really on you about it. But this is what I think is so interesting is that I feel like a lot of physics is also a little bit of an act of faith of its own. And the reason that a lot of people believe in like God or spirituality is they start to see like things at work in their life. For me, I know I can see the logic behind it too, but I feel like the fact that I'm even like a year ago I didn't know any of this and I was just really sort of visualizing this and wanting this and etc. Like now I'm here. It did make me feel really spiritual. It did make me feel so heavily that I had a purpose. Yet I do not believe. I don't need anybody to believe anything I believe. It's just my personal relationship, my personal feelings, my faith. But that's like the evidence that people give, right? Like I see it, and this is why I believe in God. Okay, sure, you can rationalize your way out of it. That being said, I know physics is completely different, but I just feel like it also requires such deep imagining and such deep faith in something that you can never fully be there for. You never fully see. Like it's not like, I mean there's particles and stuff. Okay, but I'm just saying I think it's really interesting because I think that actually physics and spirituality in a way do have that in common. That is this very abstract thing that you just have to have this deep sort of belief in a way. I mean, maybe that's not true, but I just see that in physics sometimes. And I think it's pretty interesting. Because this is my thinking. It's like, yes, you can do math and stuff. Like everything that's physics that we can actually see in the current moment and we have an understanding of, I fully understand how that would be. Okay, right? But there's these really theoretical parts of physics where, for for example, okay, I did this type of math and looked at these types of particles to see how that would probably how our universe began. But what if like I don't I know this is like but what if like somehow you didn't know it, but there was a particle that existed back then that would completely subvert your entire understanding of that, or like maybe 3 years after the universe was created, everything went away for a minute and then came back. Just like random stuff like that's like you'll never know because you're not there, and like it would take so much time for you to fully understand that. And that's why I think that physics is an act of faith too. And I don't obviously physics is one of like it's so cool, and it's also fundamental to how we understand our world, and it's super duper important. I'm just reflecting and thinking that's so interesting. And I feel like physics is unique in the fact that you can present a theory that you'll never, like, for when it comes to something like neuroscience, like you can like you'll see that, or something like there's not really a theory that much. I mean, there are theories, but I don't think you can get a PhD if you're just like, well, I think it would be this way based on my calculations. They'd be like, well, show me how that works. That like how you think that, but you don't really know it. But physics, I think physics again, I have no idea, but I feel like physics is a little bit different. Where I feel like you can get away with presenting just like a really really well thought out theory, but you're never gonna actually like it. Sometimes it just seems like you wouldn't actually see the theory come to fruition that much. Like for example, for that, it's like, well, you can't fly back to the beginning of the universe and see that a black hole actually was there or something. You know what I mean? Like, how do you know? That doesn't make it wrong. I just am reflecting on that as someone who's not in physics and just being kind of like, well, how does that work? Out of genuine curiosity. And just being like, again, I feel like it actually does require so much imagining and faith in your numbers, and faith in the fact that some random thing didn't happen like right in the middle of that would completely disrupt everything that you have just said. You see, this is what I'm talking about. This is what stresses me out about physics. He got his PhD, his doctorate for one thing. Now he's doing a whole nother thing, disproving the thing that he got his doctorate, like his PhD for. But you see, physics is the one place where I feel like physics is the only place where you could have that kind of situation. Okay, first of all, this movie really has me reflecting a lot today. Look how many tabs I have open, first of all. But also, I just started because now in the movie, he just coughed up blood. So I think his situation is getting worse. I started thinking, like, after he died, I don't know what I believe. I don't know if I believe in reincarnation. I don't believe in heaven and hell at all, even, which is strange because I do believe in God and everything. I don't believe in heaven and hell because I just don't think it makes sense that something that is all knowing, that can see our souls, and that creates situations that are beyond our control. I don't see any reason why someone would go to hell if for something that God did. I think God is more forgiving than that. I don't know. That's how I see it. I have a really unique relationship to God. I see God very abstractly as well. I have a very abstract notion of God. Like I don't see God as a creature, but like an energy. Anyways, but I started thinking, I was like, this. I wonder what happened after death. This is the things that nobody knows what happens after death except people who are deceased. I do believe in spirits heavily. I do believe that energy sort of stays, but I don't know if I see it in a ghost way. But I was like, I wonder if he believed in God after he died. Something that I'll never know. You know what I mean? Like, I know it sounds a bit like strange, but did he go somewhere, and wherever he went, does he believe in God, or did his spirit just pass? Kind of dark thoughts. And then I just started thinking about death a lot. And I just started thinking about how death must be like a crazy big adventure. I'm very curious to see what happens after you die. I'm actually not anytime soon. I'm gonna live to be like 110. I'm saying I'm planning on it, and I also everyone in my family lives to be really old, so I'm planning on being really old when I die. But I will say that once it's my time, I'm extremely curious to see what happens. Okay, so I think I've just been finding good consistent sort of backing for what I was seeing in the other studies. Like just the same kind of thing over and over again. The LTP was impacted in CA1 and it lasted for like a certain period of time. The thing is that this just added another thing to the mix, but they also saw that in the exact same situation as what I was basing my stuff on, so tail shocks and restraint stress and everything, they saw changes in the theta rhythm activity. Probably another thing I'll have to add, maybe, I don't know, I don't feel like researching. I'm probably just gonna add maybe a little point in my proposal and not worry about that for now and just say I'm gonna do more research on that. So here we go. I would say that I'm gonna add the ones I already read, but that's already a few different studies. Just like there's just overall plenty of information saying the same exact thing. Everybody already said it. It's not like a crazy fact or anything. I'm getting really tired actually, but the show must go on. I'm not gonna read further for this issue unless I have it. Oh wait, no, I wanted that one. No, because that one talked about the amygdala. So I wanted to see that one. This one's about the amygdala as well. The amygdala is the next big thing that we need to look at. Oh wait, actually I do kind of keep thinking I don't need them anymore, and then they're like useful for me. But this is really becoming a real thing now. Like this whole paper. I know I keep saying that, but it's like it's so like this is actually happening now because I keep backing my own points and I keep finding like more and more evidence and stuff, meaning this doesn't suck. I keep having that same realization. This doesn't suck and is just well backed. Will this say something about recovered memory yet? It's a start. I think it's already gonna show. It's already gonna give a mechanism for that memory stuff. But what's really gonna back my work later? It's gonna be later work that I do on probably reconsolidation. When I write, I'm actually gonna go ahead and put this in like the end here because I have a whole big thing that I actually want to go into. I think the amygdala, I need to understand better how that pattern separation stuff works. This is all going to require more caffeine. The caffeine it's not hitting the way that I want to. I just made this little list of everything that's going to be my final draft. And what the discussion is going to go into, my life is going to change so much actually once this is done. I'm curious to see what's going to happen next. I think this whole thing really has been an adventure too. And I've just been along for this crazy ride. I again, I believe in God. I believe in God in the sense that I'm just going to let the universe work its magic and take me everywhere. I fully like at this point, I just feel such deep surrender into just like I feel like I wasn't expecting this. The world took me here. You can say the world took me here. I didn't ask for this. I wasn't planning on this. This was never part of the plan, but life made this my plan. So I'm just following it. Whatever happens next happens next. I don't care anymore. Like, not, I don't care, but I feel like the universe, the world, God does a better job than me at knowing where to put me because I never would have guessed to go into neuroscience and yet somehow think like if that absolutely horrible event hadn't occurred to me, something completely beyond my control, never in a million years would I have landed in neuroscience. That is so random. The world is so random like that. I would have never thought that I would have any type of talent for this. And now here I am 8 months into something that I practically taught myself. No, actually did teach myself. And it's working. Isn't that the most random thing in the world? And I was not even I never would have guessed in 1 million years that I had any type of talent for this if it weren't for the fact that this absolutely random and tragic and difficult thing happened to me. Like, what? That's so random. Anyways, so strange. I actually became more into science and more into God at the same time. It's really weird. Like, I wasn't spiritual and I wasn't that into science. I became very sciencey and very spiritual. Like the spirituality started to grow and my interest in science started to grow. And then it just grew and grew and grew and grew. It's really strange. That's why I don't think that they are separate for me. For me personally, they go together because I wouldn't be a scientist if I wasn't spiritual, if that makes sense. Anyways, okay, in my discussion, I'm going to talk about reconsolidation as like a future direction. PTSD and chronic arousal, like sort of chronic arousal, that this is what's happening when people are having, or when animals have arousal for a period of time. But if you have arousal all the like more than usual, you probably have the potential to have like more, maybe forgetting for longer, or just have like your memory impacted. And this is where I'm going to talk about some of those chronic stress rat studies as a future potential avenue, because the more you throw off that those mechanisms, the more impact you get. And then you even get, for example, I'll probably talk here about the ACH getting depleted as well, and how that could also, or not the ACH being depleted, choline being depleted. Oh, it is ACH being depleted. Thus, less ACH, and that could also be a reason for memory lapses in chronic stress. So it's probably like a double whammy. I'm going to talk about scopolamine as like a potential medication, or something like that. There was something else I wanted to talk about in chronic stress. I don't fully remember what I was going to talk about with chronic stress. I don't fully remember. I might remember later. I'm just really tired. I think I'm like not as mentally sharp right now. But this is everything. This is a big chunk of things that I want to talk about in my discussion section. This is gonna be my career, guys. This is the thing, is no matter what like happens, this paper is too solid for me to not actually be a neuroscientist. So I get to now see myself as that officially. In the beginning, I was like, this is crazy. There's no way I'd ever be that. But by this point, I'm like, I'm probably like a few months away from it, like officially speaking. I already am because I'm already doing science, neuroscience. But officially speaking, probably a few months away. Okay, I'm going to take another break and maybe have more caffeine. And then we're going to go into learning about the amygdala. Okay, good morning. I was out last night, as in asleep, by about 6:30 in the morning. I actually took, after the last clip in this video, I actually took some time to edit my last video so that they didn't get backed up, because then I'm editing a bunch of videos at once, So we're going to start this morning by doing a quick Switzerland inspiration moment. Like, I'm going to look at Switzerland on Pinterest. Well, I'm going to show you, I'm going to show you what I want to do, like where I want to go. And then I'm going to show you what I one day hope to do, as in it's on the bucket list. And then we're going to get into, I actually spent this morning just downloading some text on the amygdala. And we're going to do some amygdala reading today. Okay, the place I'm wanting to get a ticket to, or wanting to go to, is Bern, Switzerland. There's a hiking trail there that I would really like to do, and it just looks insane. Switzerland looks so stunning. I've always really, really wanted to go to Switzerland, and I want to eat fondue. I've never eaten fondue before. Now, I'm going to show you what's on my bucket list. I have always really wanted to go to a ski resort. I've never gone skiing before, and I've never snowboarded before. I will probably suck at both. I'm not gonna lie to you, but I really, really want to go. And I have always wanted, like, I want to go in winter during Christmas, So bougie. Like, I don't know. I've never done some. Well, actually, I had some family friends growing up that they had a like a vacation house in West Virginia at like a ski lodge mountain biking place, and I would go in the summers with them sometimes. It was so much fun. and we go mountain biking, and I really want to go mountain biking again because actually I was actually pretty good at. But I've never gone skiing, and I really want to go to a place like this and wear like a big poofy coat and drink hot chocolate and etc. But I don't have the funds for that yet, but it's on the bucket list for me. And I want to eat fondue. You see, I've never had fondue before. Okay, with that in mind, well, I already downloaded some on the amygdala, but we're gonna get some more. I mean, I have them ready here. I feel like every day I've been tying up a big loose ends. Like every single day I've made an important connection for my neural network as well. And I don't know, it's just been a really, really important week. I'm just kind of getting nervous because again, I have other things to do and it's already Saturday. And I wanted to, if I don't finish it by today or tomorrow, at least mostly finished, I don't get to go to Switzerland in April. You know what's funny about these videos is because I'm talking, I'm like, oh, am I being unproductive? But I feel like I cover good ground, you know? Like I really cover ground, even though I'm talking. I feel like the talking helps me to stay like on it, you know? If I wasn't talking and being active through it like this, I feel like I'd get mentally like I'd get kind of bored, or not bored, but I just would get off track. So let's see if this is even relevant. Emotional events are remembered better than neutral events. If I can at least get all of the connections, this will probably be a pretty long video because I'm going to do a lot of work today and I did work yesterday. I think if I can get all of the information that I need pretty much like in the document, then I can just I guess I'll spend the rest of today probably finishing the intro. I'm gonna not the yeah, the like the literature review. I'm gonna really try to prioritize that today if I can. Because everything kind of feeds into each other anyways. Where you see a lot of this is just I need to just make this my own. Actually, I keep getting shocked that I'm here partly because this has felt like so much fun to me. This has genuinely been I think I look back and I don't even feel like I worked that even though I've been working so hard on this, it doesn't feel like hard work. Like I don't look back and I'm like, oh, I've worked so hard in the last 8 months. I can't believe I'm here. It's like I had so much fun doing this, and I think this almost feels like my hobby. So it doesn't feel like I don't look back and feel fatigued by this. The project does not fatigue me at all. What fatigues me is everything else, class, work, everything. But this to me, it's so fun. I've been really, really continuing to think about dissociative identity disorder. It's so interesting to me. And I think that understanding it would explain so much to us about the way the brain works. And I have this theory. This is entirely based off of parts theory as well, like theory of structural dissociation. And then also on just arousal, attention, like cortical attention. And it goes like this. Okay, got the person. This is Billy. This is Billy, and he has dissociative identity disorder. And then I think that, so there's, usually, okay, I'm fleshing this out as I go along, but usually the way memories work is that there's like these nodes and they sort of interlock, and then it gives you this narrative about you and how you like what happened to you and the story of what happened, where this is like a really important thing to happen and this is everything linking up to it. This is actually like I'm putting together a lot of ideas right now on the fly that I think are just coming up as I go along. I'm wondering if like maybe with parts theory it's like I have a few different like things that I'm thinking of where first of all things probably get fragmented like this. Like I really want to do that work on narrative binding and how narratives get bound. Okay, so then it gets split, right? You get these splits and these fragments, first of all. The next thing is that so already things are kind of split up in different pieces. I think that there's this I've been really reflecting on the way that I like the changes that I had in my own head after the association and stuff. And I feel like I have this thing when I'm walking around where my brain gets really, really intensely focused on things, but in a kind of uncontrollable way. Where I can't I feel like I have a lot of arousal, but it's not as predictable or controllable. Or my brain is really like I don't quite know how to put it, but let me erase so I can try to draw this better. This isn't even what I was initially thinking. I think that while things are fragmented, right? And I think that that's how the fragmentation will work. I think in the binding, it's already kind of like separated out, or the arousal kind of impacts the way that like if something is really arousing, like let's say one node is really, really arousing, it gets so hyperfixated on that it gets completely split off from other pieces, right? So other pieces of the story, like other pieces of the node, like let's say instead of a neat little node like narrative thing like this, it gets split off into all these different pieces. And then when it's almost like these patterns of really, really high arousal that have a whole nother world of associations to them, and they become like these senses of self, you know, because your brain isn't like binding this together, it creates these completely separate worlds of realities like this, where you're getting like anything that's really intensely arousing is creating like its own little world of associations. Does that make sense? Where it's like you're like, I'm here, but the it's creating these separate patterns, like these separate patterns of arousal, where if you were to actually reintegrate, you would see that the story goes like this, but because the arousal is so intense, because this is a thing for me, like I said, I feel like I get really, like when I'm out, it's like my brain is really, really on high alert. So I'm getting really like, you know, that like that sort of picture of an animal that's sort of like just like they're looking around at everything. I feel like it gets to be a little bit of that. And also my brain, I don't know, it's like my brain gets really attached. It used to. This has gotten so much better as I've healed, but it used to get really attached to certain like fragments and pieces of things that would come up. And I'd get really immersed in those little fragments, where I never got to this point for me, but just noticing how my dissociation worked post trauma, where I think that you get these separate patterns of arousal where because they're so certain pieces are so arousing and they can't connect to each other, they almost become these different like worlds of arousal that then create associations that like they sort of, this is a thing. What I noticed for my own brain is it got really hard to see pinpoint what exactly was going on. Sometimes I would get like I'd get like a I'd go down a little brain spiral from a certain word where I didn't see that that word was actually something I'd just seen in the corner of my vision, but because of my dissociation, I wasn't as aware of my surroundings. It Does that make sense? Where you're not really as aware of where certain things are coming from. And what I think is that you're getting in these patterns of arousal that are then picking up sort of information without you really sort of having a good sense of where that information is coming from and why. And so it's getting linked. It's almost like binding and getting linked to the sort of arousal space that you're in, where there's probably different pattern, and then those patterns emerge from your traumatic experiences, but they also get linked to all these other things that you don't really see where they're coming from and why, but it's just because they're in these sort of patterns of arousal where that because these memories can't interlink, you can't see why it's interlinked. I don't know if I have it in my head. I don't know if I explained it that well, but I think that's how it is, where like the different alters, like the alters are these sorts of with the A, and I'm not even gonna say AMP or EP or whatever, but I think the different alters are like these high arousal tendencies, like these tendencies of nodes and things that evoke high arousal, that include, yeah, so they include like nodes that are very arousing, and then also probably associations made while in that high arousal state. But the thing is that, so they become these different patterns of association that are sort of warped around these different patterns of arousal. And then like these different nodes, if you were to actually start to integrate the nodes with the other pieces, the interlinking sort of narrative pieces, you would see that it's almost like, that's one piece versus being like, oh, that's one thing, like something like this. But it's just that because they're so arousing, they're completely like unlinked from each other. That's kind of how I think that that dissociative identity works, which would require studying that sort of narrative binding. And then also, this is what I think. This is like my little random theory because after like I really, really still want to study gamma synchrony. It's really still interlinked because sharp-wave ripples also, I don't remember how it is, but I don't know if the gamma synchrony is running in the background, but when you put the two concepts together, you start to create it changes the way that you're integrating things into your wider framework of you. And I'm wondering if there's, how do I put it? I kind of lost my train of thought, but I really, really want to study gamma synchrony. And yes, and this is my random little theory of dissociative identity disorder. That's how I think parts work, but I need to do more research to see if this is accurate. I think once you can start helping the little narrative pieces coming off of the nodes, if that makes sense, interlink to each other and see how the different pieces coincide, then you will start to get integrate. Anyways, we're going back. I guess my thinking for that was really just that sometimes, when you're so immersed that the rest of the world kind of disappears, like, that state where even, in movies when they see like the person they love and the rest of the world feels like it disappears. I feel like dissociative identity disorder, to me, I imagine it is like that, but in your head, where you get there's some piece of you that's so arousing that it's like the rest of everything else disappears, and it's just that really, really hyper arousal state towards a certain tendency of you or a certain piece of you, that it's so your attention gets so narrowed in on that really arousing thing that it's like everything else goes away to the point where that's everything. Especially because if this is accurate, people with dissociative identity disorder are probably living in really intense states of high arousal for really, really, really extended periods of time, like their whole lives even. So they are probably facing the most intense ramifications of arousal in that way. And that's what I mean. So I'm really fleshing this out right now, but I mentioned one fact I'm going to mention it in my paper, and I've mentioned it in other videos, but I thought it was so interesting that people who have anxiety, so normally when you make a memory, you're actually expanding the picture. You're expanding the picture of the memory so that you're getting almost like a bigger picture of a place. Like when I remember my flat, my kitchen, I'm not usually ever focused on the entire kitchen at once. Like I'm usually looking at something. Like I'm looking at like the cat food box. I'm looking at the fridge. But my brain, I guess, creates this bigger picture of the kitchen when I have like memories of the kitchen, I think. But apparently people that are very anxious, they don't do that, as like their pictures are not as expanded of the things that they experience. Like they have these smaller pictures. And I kind of feel like if you're constantly in that state of high arousal, I think that this was what I noticed when I had really, really bad dissociation, is that I feel like that's what I mean, where I was still, my brain was probably still perceiving the external world. Like it was still perceiving the world outside of me, hearing the things that I was hearing around me, but I was so unaware of the things that were going like in my peripheral zone because I was so aroused by something in my head, or by like I have this issue where it's like I can't get my experience to really focus well. Like it's too focused, where I get this little eye thing. But it's not as bad now, but this is like a big thing for me, where I think that probably with dissociative identity disorder, because this is the thing, is that all of these there's probably deep psychological reasons for it too, but I find it really interesting how the different senses of selves are so they have these really unique sort of, even some of them will have different like completely different personality traits with different sort of characteristics that don't really have anything to do with that person, or etc. Again, there's probably internal reasons for that, but I feel like your brain is not as aware, at least mine was not as aware of the source of things. Like, where is this information coming from and what does it mean? Why am I focused on it? Where it was just sort of things kind of just drifted in and out. Sometimes where I would get on like this thought process. I had a really, really hard time with dissociation. My first year or two, it's honestly a shock that I even am functioning how I want. Like, I don't know. I was really struggling really badly. And but I was really observant. Like, I really would observe my brain a lot because I was like, this isn't right. And I know it's not right, but it's like, I would just observe a lot, like what's happening because I didn't want to have it anymore. I was like, why? But anyways, because my brain, it would just make like, processing errors a lot, I think. But anyways, but I noticed that sometimes I would get on this whole long thought process. But if I were to look around, it felt like it was organically coming out of my head. But if I were to look around, it was something that I picked up off the scrap of like a billboard or, stuff like that, where I just wasn't noticing the way that my brain was kind of picking up information in a disorganized way. And I wasn't noticing the source as well because my arousal and my like scope of attention was so messed up that it was just sort of information was drifting in, and I wasn't as aware. I wasn't aware enough to pick up the source to the degree that I thought it was something that came from my head, but it was something that came from outside that I had seen out of the corner of my eye or I had just heard. The more I was healing from dissociation, the more I would notice that, where I'd catch it quick. I'd be like I don't know, like let's say I saw a thing about bread on a billboard. I'd be like, I love bread. Like all of a sudden I just get a thought about bread. I'd be like, bread is so good. Maybe that's a sign that I need to get bread today or something. And then I'd look up and I'd see the bread billboard. I'd be like, oh, I think I just noticed it, but I wasn't aware enough of my surroundings to know that I noticed it. This probably happens to everybody on earth, to be fair. But I think that it happened for me more with dissociation. And I noticed that where I was not always aware of, like something would just come into my head where I was like, oh, it feels like it's coming from me, but it's coming from outside. But I'm just too dissociated to see that that's coming from outside. And I think that I kind of have this sense that that's partly how people start to develop these really sort of unique personalities, not always in that specific way, but that things are coming from places that you're not aware as to where they're coming from. Maybe some kind of scrap of a childhood memory, but you can't identify that it's a childhood memory. And maybe it wasn't even that relevant to you in childhood, but all of a sudden that information seems really pertinent because of the way that the arousal is working and the way that you don't really have a good understanding, like you don't have the sort of awareness of your own body and the where you are to understand where things are coming from and why. Where like that's not actually important to you, you just picked it up, but because there was some sort of little arousal tick to it, you all of a sudden it seems really, really relevant to you and really important to you, where it wasn't really that important to you in the first place. Because it's really interesting. Yeah, people with dissociative identity sort of have like literally like one personality will be completely like, love one thing and have this, some people will have different genders and stuff. And I just really feel like there's some kind of something to that where it gets, and also probably if you're in an altered state, where you're in that really high arousal state and it's picking up that information. That's my theory. I really want to study that. I feel like being a really smart person, but also navigating a mental health issue was so confusing for me because I was like, okay, I'm finding myself to be really, really spot on accurate about a lot of things. Like, like something like this, right? That I'm like, okay, this is a weird path to go down, but like my gut told me to go down it. And that really paid off well for me. And that was a good, smart move. Like, yes, you should all of a sudden start doing this random study and also making YouTube videos about it and all this stuff where it seemed kind of like, is that a normal thing to do? But it's like, it was like, that was a really smart thing to do. And I feel like I have like, I'm an intelligent person, but my brain, more so in the past, I feel like as I've gotten better, I just like integrated all the information that I learned and that's been useful. But I was like, but my brain is leading me astray often on other things where I was like, I don't know. It was so hard to trust myself. This project actually helped me trust myself so much more because I'm a very intuitive person and I follow my gut a lot, but it's hard to develop a good relationship to your gut. This is something I want to write about, but it's so hard to develop a good relationship to your gut and to learn to trust yourself when you've gone through a period of mental illness, particularly one that's a little bit more on the severe end where your brain gets like, you're like, I don't know, like I'm showing and proving to myself that I should follow myself at the same time, I'm also seeing that my brain is not always leading me correctly, and it's really confusing to know like how to follow myself well. Where I think I just healed over time and now it's just easier. Like I just trust myself across the board. But I really struggled with thinking like everything that I did was crazy, everything I could do, like is this wrong? Am I like really pulling from some like, is this really, really far off? Am I having some kind of, I really, really struggled with that a lot after mental illness. I was like, I can't tell I can't tell if I'm smart or really off right now. I'm either really, really smart or really, really messed up. I was like, I don't know which one it is. And I can't tell like what to do. But I did this one, I was like, with hard work and determination, I'll make sure it works out. But I was just it was pretty confusing for like a while there. I was like, ugh. I feel like I became really spiritual and really scientific at the same time because I feel like I had such an all-encompassing desire to have control over my own mind and understand myself on like the deepest of levels. I think that's why I went down both of those paths after developing a mental illness, where it's like I want to understand my soul. I want to understand my purpose. Want to understand why I'm here. Why did this happen? What's the path to go down with this, and how do I learn to navigate my head when it's so complex all the time. But then I also wanted to understand myself from like what's the logistics here, what's the logistics of what's happening here. And on both of those ends it was like my brain is so far out of my control that I just want to have like control over it. And I think that not discipline, spirituality promises that to a touch, particularly things like Buddhism and just meditation and stuff. It promises you that sort of well, I think it normalizes the fact that our experience is usually pretty distorted anyways, that everybody in the world, mentally ill or not, has having a little bit of a distorted experience of reality, because reality is just sort of not very there's not like a very we don't I don't think any of us have a good consensus on what reality is. And I think that that's was the appeal of spirituality for me after, was this desire to sort of get in tune with that, and to also to allow something to have faith that there was some sort of bigger path to take, that I didn't need to control every piece. Because I also think that um having a mental health issue, it made me want to control everything sometimes, where it's like, no, just let go, just let the world take you where you need to go, and you don't need to be. Yeah, I feel like it was just a good combo. And then science, I was like, well, what's actually, yeah, just what's going on here. But I think in both things, both ends, I was just like, I just want to understand my own head right now a lot and control it a bit better, but then also not feel the obsessive need to be controlling it all the time. Spirituality also helped me to not prioritize, to embrace the bigger picture. I think that's the thing I like about it, is that sometimes you don't need to know everything, and to sort of love what you don't know too, and to see the world in a bigger way. I feel like I just became a more abstract thinker after becoming a spiritual person, and that helped me too. Where I feel like it helped me to see the bigger picture of my life, or it encouraged me to see the world that way. And I think if I hadn't gone and become a spiritual person and I'd gone through what I went through, I would be horribly depressed, because it would just seem so purposeless. And it did have a purpose in my life. This whole thing had a purpose in my life. I mean, whether you want to see it as I made that purpose or whatever, but I feel like it had such a deep purpose in my life. And if nobody had given me a framework to see my own trauma through a bigger purpose or through a bigger picture, it would seem like the world was so cruel, and that what had happened to me was so meaningless and so empty, and etc. And I think that was why I leaned into spirituality, where I was like, no, I'm not going to see the world as cruel. I'm going to see as myself as having a direction, and that this is a part of my story. And it has been a part of my story, maybe because I saw it that way, but either way, I think that's why a lot of people turn to spirituality after a traumatic event, and it has deep purpose as well. This is repeating a lot of things I kind of already learned in the other study. So I don't feel like I need to read this to the degree that I'm reading it. What am I looking for with these papers right now? I don't even really know. Let's go back to my paper and see, what am I even missing? Here's Billy. I should save this. and put it in my folder. I think the thing that I'm trying to figure out is how to do this tagging thing. Let me see if I actually want anything from that document. I think I just need to understand how the amygdala works. I think I kind of have enough on binding. I mean, it isn't hurtful, but this is more like what I was needing. I'm sorry. I'm actually talking a lot today because I'm really lazy and not in the mood to do this. I really am not in the mood today. I'm not, but that's why I keep talking and talking. Maybe I need to go on like a walk or something. I don't know. I need to do something. Okay, I'm gonna turn this video off right now and figure out how to get myself a little bit more like immersed in this because I don't know, for some reason I'm just really not in the mood. I'm not in the mood to read a bunch of research papers at all, but we have to if we're gonna finish this. So
regression, it's important to remember that while these methods are ultimately equivalent, and we'll get back to this in just a few moments, regression line gives us the value that is associated with a 1 unit increase. The value of the regression coefficient is the value of the dV. It's the value of dV is what is the difference between null hypothesis significance testing for correlation and for simple linear? Both are mathematically equivalent, but focus on different aspects of the relationship between two variables. Correlation only handles two variables, and we're getting now to the situation where everything is very nuanced. Does anybody want to say? Explain their answer. Both are mathematically equivalent. Focus on different aspects of the relationship between the variables. One plus. But this
okay, I'm gonna show you my proposal and then we're gonna end this extremely random video here. It's a few days, like maybe 2 days after like that whole overnight adventure. Unfortunately, I will not be going to Switzerland in April because I didn't finish my proposal this week. I will be going to Cambridge though, unless by some chance I don't finish this proposal in the next 2 weeks, but there's just no way. So let me show you what I worked on in my statistics class today. Switzerland, I'm coming for you though. Basically, what I did is I just asked a little bit more about how this is what I was reading in class. Was I just basically oh no, this is too far. I just asked, can you explain pattern separation? And it just went into pattern separation a bit. And I just learned about how pattern separation works a little bit. I'm gonna read papers, obviously, but this is just so I knew where to even go with the papers, or I just got a sense of how it worked overall. Again, I'm trying to give myself a bit of a pass to use this because the average person would actually have experience from a degree, but I don't really have that experience. So this is like doing a bachelor's, like I'm just learning. Unfortunately, I don't have, I'm not like in a program, so I don't have that background. So that's why I've been kind of giving myself that pass to learn with ChatGPT because I don't have like, But anyways, so I was just learning about pattern separation and I didn't understand projections. It explained what projections are. And I just took that information and started to sort of understand it and translate it into my actual proposed neural network. And I just started writing. It's good. This is going to be a bit of a blurb about what the actual everything the proposal the network should do, the computational model. And then I'm going to significantly like bring this down. This is just going to be straight up instructions about what the like more technical instructions about the actual neural network. So basically I haven't gotten everything. In our next video, we're going to learn more about pattern separation. We're going to learn about the amygdala. I just felt like this video was getting a bit long. So what will happen if that is that there will be an amygdala. When triggered, it will cause ACH to go up. If ACH goes up above 120%, it should begin to trigger theta waves, and the computational model will be in an encoding phase. If the stress stays up for a second but isn't traumatic, then the model should employ normal Hebbian plasticity rules as already laid out by the study. Excitation goes up as usual. However, in my study, there's an additional piece, which is memory binding. As ACH goes up, the source of what triggered the amygdala piece, the source of what triggered the amygdala, which will be the stressor, should start to impact the binding. The source will send a stronger signal, which will impact the way the memory is bound, favoring the memory trace towards the arousing element. Consolidation will continue as normal. entorhinal cortex is going to be receiving information from, I don't know what. Is there even going to be another like piece of it? I don't know. This entorhinal cortex will send information to the dentate gyrus. To avoid having to create other parts of the brain, I could have a lateral and a medial entorhinal cortex sending different information, or I could keep it as just the entorhinal cortex. I have to answer that for myself. It will be quote unquote receiving information in 3 categories, which will be what, where, and source, which will be dependent on like certain imaginary cortices, I don't know. If I wanted to have other cortices, I would have a pararhinal cortex, but I think that I could just abstract this through the entorhinal cortex because I'm not setting the function of the pararhinal cortex. If stress is inescapable, something different will happen. The HTH will go up, but the excitation will not go up. It will be dampened. The more arousing element is once again more likely to get encoded. After the stressor, the long-term potentiation will be impacted. I'm gonna expand on that. But that's the beginning sort of setup at this point. And yeah, so we're just gonna end it here for now so it doesn't get too long to sort of edit. I already think this is gonna be like either a long video or I'm gonna have to cut down a lot because it didn't really have like a neat end at first. And I was just kind of like, okay, I thought I was gonna get it finished, but this paper, I keep thinking that this is like almost done and it keeps needing just a little bit more and a little bit more, but it's also fleshed out really, really like I'm really surprised at how technical I've been able to make this entire thing, given just, yeah, I don't know. It's been really growing in complexity in a way that I would never have imagined myself getting to. And I've been holding off and just enjoying the learning because actually this has probably been the most learning intensive few weeks of my study in terms of really understanding abstractly what's going on in the brain and etc. And it's just been a learning adventure. And yeah, I've just been allowing myself to build that knowledge myself because I think it's good. Like if I can build it myself now and learn, I just kind of want to see how far I can go before I really need to sort of be like, okay, you know what I mean? How much can I do on my own has also been kind of fun and just kind of like, okay, not going to tap out yet. Like I'm going to keep learning until I can't do anymore and then send it off to my supervisor. So, yeah. But okay, that's it for today's video, and I'll see you in the next video for pattern separation and the amygdala.